I am going to take you through my process of writing an ACE paragraph for the jacket. You all wrote an ACE paragraph recently for the jacket, and I wanted to take this time to review it and also to show you how I broke down the prompt and wrote my paragraph. So here is the prompt. Authors use characters to develop a theme. Write an essay analyzing how the characters' words develop the theme in the jacket about how the way you dress influences how you feel about yourself. Use evidence from the text to support your analysis. Now that was the prompt that you were given. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to break down this prompt to make sure we understand the question that they're asking, and also so we know how to answer that question. So the first sentence is always kind of like a gimme sentence. It kind of restates the obvious. We all know that authors use characters to develop a theme. Like, come on, it's language arts class. We know this. Also, what I want to do when I read this first sentence is check to see if it has any literary elements in there. And what caught my eye when I looked at this was characters and theme. Now we know theme is a literary element, and characters, when they mention characters, it makes me think of characterization. So I kind of pulled those two things out, and I am aware of them. Now, our second sentence is when they state the question that you have to answer. So I have to answer. I have to analyze how the character's words develop the theme in the jacket about how the way you dress influences how you feel about yourself. That's my question. I got to analyze the character's words and use them on how they develop the theme in the jacket about how the way you dress influences the way you feel. Now, in this sentence, the literary elements that I will be using in my ACE paragraph will be very apparent. Again, I see the word theme. So I know that I'm going to be creating a theme in my ACE paragraph. And also, it says here the character's words. That's my second literary element, and it's part of characterization. Finally, the third sentence is always going to be about how you're going to answer the question. And the expectation is always to use evidence from the text to support your analysis. So here's our breakdown of the prompt. The authors use characters to develop a theme. My two literary elements, they're showing up, characters and theme. The question that I have to answer, I have to analyze how the character's words, literary element number one, character's words, develop the theme in the jacket about how the way you dress influences how you feel about yourself. The theme is the second literary element. And how am I going to do this? How am I going to answer it? I'm going to use evidence from the text to support my analysis. So before I even start writing, I need to ask myself two questions. The questions are, what two literary elements do I have to analyze? And also, what is the theme? They kind of give us a hint as to what the theme is in the question, but I have to write my own theme before I can continue writing my paragraph. So what two literary elements do I have to analyze? I know that I have to use the character's words, and I know I have to use the theme. Those are the two I need to talk about in my paragraph. So as I begin to write, if I start bringing in mood or tone or figurative language, if I start writing about those things, that should be like a red flag. Like, woo, 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 Miss Ramos, I think you're kind of straying off topic. I have to really focus on these two literary elements because that's what the prompt is asking for. Now, I need to have a theme. I need to know the theme of the jacket. So this is the theme that I came up with. How one dresses can affect their self-esteem in either a positive or a negative way. It's kind of similar to what's in the prompt. I just added a little bit and made it a universal message. So now I can start with my graphic organizer, my ACE structure for my paragraph. And I always want to remember my literary elements, characters, words, and theme, and also the theme that I wrote, how one dresses can affect their self-esteem in either a positive or negative way. So my A is a topic sentence. And this is when I'm just going to kind of rephrase the question or the prompt. So I wrote, in Gary Soto's The Jacket, the author uses characters' words to help develop the theme of the memoir. It's as simple as that. I restated what the prompt asked me to do, and I mentioned my two literary elements in my topic sentence. Next, I have to go back into the text and cite evidence that I can use in my paragraph to help support my answer. So I went back into the jacket and I found a bunch of different quotes that could help me prove that the character's words develop the theme about how Gary Soto, how the jacket affected Gary Soto's, how he felt about himself. So these are all the ones that I picked. I'll just read you a couple. I picked, it was so ugly and so big that I knew I'd have to wear it a long time. That was the first afternoon with my jacket. The next day I wore it to 6th grade and got a D on a math quiz. I also chose the quote where he talked about his teachers. The teachers were no help. They looked my way and talked about how foolish I looked in my new jacket. I saw their heads bob with laughter and their hands half covering their mouths. I also picked the part where he talked about how he thought his peers were reacting to him in his new jacket. Although they didn't say it out loud, man, that's ugly, I heard the buzz of gossip and even laughter that I knew was meant for me. I also picked some quotes from the text about how his behavior changed while he wore the jacket. I chose, I received C's on my quizzes and forgot the state capitals and rivers of South America, our friendly neighbor. And at lunchtime, I stayed with the ugly boys who leaned against the chain link fence. So those are all quotes directly from the text that I picked that I think could help me prove my answer that the character's words help develop the theme of the memoir. And the theme is how one dresses can affect their self-esteem in either a negative or positive way. I may not use all of these quotes. I might use all of these quotes. It all depends how, when I get to writing my paragraph, how the flow of the paragraph works. Finally, I have to explain and analyze. Now, this is the most important part of your paragraph. And remember, it's not a restatement or a summarization of the evidence that you found in the text. Analysis is when you think critically about the text and use your own words. You have to make connections to the literary elements, to your own experiences, and analyze the evidence and prove how this evidence supports your answer. So here's what I wrote. The author uses the character's words to illustrate how one dresses can affect their self-confidence in either a positive or negative way. Boom, I stated my theme. Remember, that belongs in explain and analyze because it came from my own head. In Soto's memoir, The Jacket, the jacket affected his self-confidence in a negative way. For instance, it was not until after Soto received his guacamole green jacket that he started doing poorly in school. The jacket made Soto so self-conscious it affected his self-esteem, which in turn affected his performance in school. Soto's relationship with his peers also changed. He was so ashamed of his jacket he started hanging out with the ugly boys because he believed he did not deserve any better. During the years he wore the jacket, he ceased to make new friends or talk to girls because he was ashamed and embarrassed by his appearance. The author's use of the character's words helped the reader understand the theme of the text. How one dresses can influence how a person feels about themselves. There, I restated the theme again. Unfortunately for Soto, his jacket had a profound impact on him in a very negative way. So this is all analysis because I inferred how the jacket affected Gary Soto and how it influenced how he felt about himself. And I used all this evidence to get to my analysis. Because nowhere in the paragraph did it ever mention that he was embarrassed or ashamed. I inferred it, which is why that it is analysis. So now I put it all together. This was my graphic organizer, and now this is my official ACE paragraph. It's when I put all the elements together. And I'm going to read it to you now. In Gary Soto's The Jacket, the author uses the character's words to help develop the theme of the memoir. In the beginning of the memoir, Soto asked his mother for a new jacket. He wanted a jacket that was black leather and that had silver studs with enough belts to hold down a small town. Instead, Soto received an ugly jacket, the color of day-old guacamole. The first day Gary Soto wore his new jacket to school, he got a D on a math quiz. He was convinced his teacher were gossiping about his jacket. Gary Soto writes, "The teachers were no help. They looked my way and talked about how foolish I looked in my new jacket. I saw their heads bob with laughter, their hands half covering their mouths." Soto was so insecure about his jacket that he even believed his fellow classmates were talking about him. Although they didn't say it out loud, man, that's ugly. I heard the buzz of gossip and even laughter that I knew was meant for me. As the days and years went on, Soto's performance in school and behavior changed. He writes, "I received C's on quizzes and forgot the state capitals and rivers of South America, our friendly neighbor. And at lunchtime, I stayed with the ugly boys who leaned against the chain-link fence." The author uses the character's words to illustrate how one dresses can affect their self-confidence in either a positive or negative way. In Soto's memoir, the jacket affected his self-confidence in a negative way. For instance, it was not until after Soto received his guacamole green jacket that he started doing poorly in school. The jacket made Soto so self-conscious it affected his self-esteem, which in turn affected his performance in school. Soto's relationship with his peers also changed. He was ashamed of his jacket. He was so ashamed of his jacket that he started hanging out with the ugly boys because he believed he did not deserve any better. During the years he wore the jacket, he ceased to make new friends or talk to girls because he was ashamed and embarrassed by his appearance. The author's use of the character's words helped the reader understand the theme of the text. How one dresses can influence how a person feels about themselves. Unfortunately for Soto, his jacket had a profound impact on him in a very negative way. So let's just recap. So highlighted in yellow is my topic sentence, the A part of my analysis, the answer. Then Highlighted in blue is all of the textual evidence. This is the C. I cited evidence from the text to support my answer. And then finally, what's highlighted in green is my analysis of the evidence. Note that I put my theme. The author uses the character's words to illustrate how one dresses can affect their self-confidence in either a positive or negative way in my analysis, because that came from my own head. And that is just a quick review of my writing process for the Jacket Ace paragraph.